So
thank you.
Sorry. And.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate all the hard work that the organizers of this event no doubt put into pulling it off and so successfully and smoothly. And I know that's no small feat, so I thank them, and I'm glad to be a part of this conversation. I kind of want to pick up where we left off before lunch, which is, what are the solutions? What's happening in particular places? How are people getting engaged? How are they thinking systemically? And that's what a lot of my work is about, and the work that I do in community and in collaboration largely with nonprofit organizations, with government officials, farmers, ranchers, processors, and others. I will probably refer to we today, and that's because I don't do this work alone. I do it with students and all these other collaborators, and so that's who I mean by we when I use that term. I want to talk about or make 3 points in my 5 minutes here, which is that when we think about moving towards sustainability, and I think Dr. Clark articulated my view of sustainability quite well. It's not something that's a clear end point. We're never going to know exactly when we're there. We're moving towards it, hopefully. It's a process. 3 things: the importance of place, the importance of systems thinking, and lastly, the critical component of citizen engagement and meaningful participation in the food system. Food is central to our lives, and it's critical that we have some control over it. And I don't think we have that largely now. Place. To me, place is important, not because I don't value the places that you all live or other places, but place is important to me because it's where I can act. It's the place I come to know through immersion over time. I come to understand its culture, its economic situation, the political situation, the ecological situation, and so on. And those things all change over time as well. I think by being informed by the unique characteristics of a place, our chances for longer-term success are enhanced. So, where's the place I live? Montana, stunningly beautiful place. Divided by the Continental Divide, which roughly runs north-south through the state. The western portion of the state is in the northern Rockies. Eastern portion is the Central Front Range, heading out to the Great Plains throughout much of the eastern Montana. And we're a state that still doesn't have 1 million people in population yet. Just to give you a sense of what that means, we have 1 congressman. Okay, I don't know how many congressmen there are from the Bay Area, but I'm sure it's more than we have. We're seeing demographic changes that I think are important, that reflect what we can do in our place and also present both challenges and opportunities. We're seeing net in-migration into areas that we call high amenity areas, beautiful places to live with nice communities nearby. We're seeing out-migration from our most rural areas, although that process has slowed compared to what it was a couple decades ago. And unfortunately, that's not good news in a way, because it's slowed because it's almost complete. The losses in population are basically people dying. Our rural communities are in serious decline. Historically, Montana had a very diverse agricultural system and processing base throughout the state. 50 years ago, processing was one of the #1 job sectors in the state. Now it's almost completely gone. There's a little bit of a resurgence. That's because we took, not we, this is the other we, this is the industrial we, the policies and economics of this nation that promoted industrialization of agriculture were very effective in generating a system of production in Montana where we produce bulk raw commodities for export, wheat primarily in the crop realm, and calves. And we export them before adding any value to them. We've nearly lost all of our processing infrastructure, as I mentioned. I think that's largely the result of economic concentration in the processing industry. Farm expenses in most years, with the exception of a couple of recent years, exceed cash receipts. We're nearly completely dependent on government subsidies to support these crop production in particular, and livestock production gets certain subsidies in other ways than direct payments.
Neva, can you, 1 minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I haven't even gotten to tell you about the solutions. So here they are. They're, okay. We also have high rates of poverty, and I want to be really clear about that, and that's a real concern. 14% of our population's at or below the poverty line. We have 7 Indian reservations where there's a lot of diet-related diseases. But we have tried, I think, to move from being a food colony to being more of a food democracy. We're not there yet, but we have tried to enhance our local food system and have it work not only for small direct farmers, but also more medium-scale farmers. This is where the systems perspective comes in. We are literally trying to rebuild our food system from the ground up and to develop some capacity to feed ourselves in the future. That entails looking at different stages of the systems, and later I'd like to pick up on a piece that Gail said about, you get into one piece of it and you see that it's linked to another piece. So you start working on institutional market programs and you start saying, whoa, we need to rebuild our processing sector in order to do that. That systems perspective is critical. We have a host of innovative programs that I'd be happy to visit with you about after I'm done here. We have to work on multiple scales, and we also need to look at values-based supply chains. I've been studying an example of this because we have 60 million acres in food and less than 1 million people. It's not all going to be localized or regionalized, right? So we're going to still need to export. How do we do that in a way that people along the chain are all winning in some sense, from producer to consumer?
Can we maybe get into more of those examples during the discussion?
Now here's my last thing.
Okay.
So citizen engagement, and I think about where we're headed. It's who's the we? How do we engage people in deciding where we're headed? I don't think a room full of scientists and industry representatives and farmers is itself going to figure that out. So we need systems to bring people into the process of deciding where the food comes from that we literally put into our body in the most intimate of ways is going to be produced and distributed in the future.
Thanks.
Thanks.